So great to see you. Thanks for being on with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I'm really excited about our conversation today. Today, the topic is scarcity and abundance. And the whole reason for the three of us particularly being on today is because we had this conversation a few months back and we thought, there's a shift happening. And so let's talk about it. Let's see what's happening. Let's talk about it. Let's, see, how we can potentially shift things back. So just to sort of start at ground zero, Pam, can you just tell us your definition of what scarcity and abundance are? We'll start with you.
Absolutely. So when I image scarcity, another term that I use more personally is poverty consciousness. I call it poverty consciousness. And the reason I call it that is it's coming from a place of lack or an assumption that somehow, despite our outer circumstances, we're not whole. And abundance to me is the polar opposite of that, in that it's an assumption that regardless of the circumstances around us, we are complete. We're whole, we're healthy, we're complete. And I think one thing that I contemplate a lot, or I recognize a lot in myself as well as in our industry, is that scarcity runs through every market. So it doesn't matter if we are in the screaming, booming market of COVID, or we are in the market that feels more challenging, because scarcity is a mindset that we carry with us regardless of the circumstances. For example, during COVID, I would hear agents say, I'm like, how are you? I'm busy. I'm so busy. I don't have any life. I haven't had a vacation for 3 years. And yet they're probably very abundant in their bank account. That's as much experiencing scarcity as, say, today. I've been interviewing some agents because I'm adding some agents to my team, and I've asked them, so how's it going? And they say, well, it's slow, it's challenging, and that is the exact same mindset as saying, I'm so busy, I don't have time for myself. So it's an interesting concept.
So I love those two examples, Pam. Stacey, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, actually, Pam, I love the way that you phrase that. And it's interesting because when I think of scarcity and when I look at the individuals that I see that really wrestle with scarcity, it definitely comes from a place of fear, right? Whether that's fear of what will happen because of the market, fear that will happen because I'm too busy and now I don't have time for my family. Like you said, it's on both sides, but it's fear driven. And it's so interesting to me because when I think about my own path and my own journey, I've had a scarcity mindset in my life. I'm not going to lie. I think maybe if we think about it, somewhere in our journey, we probably have wrestled with it. A lot of times it comes with immaturity, and the great gift of maturity comes sometimes the ability to see a little bit more clearly what true abundance is. And so I definitely see a strong root in fear. And so, well, how can we tackle fear? Right. And the reality is, I'm going to just put it out there. Is it possible that regardless of the market, is it possible, regardless of the situation, whether you're swimming in deals or you're scraping looking for deals, is it possible that the reality that we have is based on what we project, based on what we are thinking, what we're feeling? I think, Pam, you and I have had many conversations about being a magnet, and how when things stay in your life that feel lacking in abundance, what is it that you're working through? I think of Pam often, Christine. I'm not even kidding you. Every time I have something very recurrent happening, I remember when we were walking in the bookshop in Portland, and I was telling you this story, and you go, sounds like you have a very interesting history. that keeps
Well, it's like it's the patterns,
showing
right?
up, the patterns.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
the
like, I don't
patterns.
know. Yeah, like scarcity mindset ties into patterns. It ties into it. And the reality is, what is at the root of all of it? All of it.
Well, fear might be one thing, but also, I mean, not to get too deep into the psychology of it, but it could be, your child upbringing, trauma. It could be trauma,
You're
it could
close.
be,
You're close. There's
it
one
could be
thing that's
your
in common.
self-esteem, right?
You.
Yeah.
The one thing in common with every single thing we experience is us.
Right.
Just saying. All right.
Yeah.
This went a whole different direction, but I'm just like, I'm feeling like at the end of the day, I can't control the economy. I can't control elections. I can't control what people do. But at the end of the day, the one thing I'm always faced with, I'm always going to find, no matter what, is I'm going to still find myself there.
So there's a saying, right? Like wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah. I keep following myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so it's so true. Like no matter, so the person who is so busy in COVID that they didn't have any kind of balance in their lives, now that person is so slow and they don't have any money coming into their bank account. Right. So, and yet I guess if they had an abundance mindset, they could say, but wow, I have all this time to be with my family. I have a better quality of life. And so I hear that and I say, okay, so here's the opportunity, right? The opportunity is I can go like a crazy woman during the busy times and forfeit the quality time with my family. Or I can maybe slow down a little bit and not take every deal, maybe refer some of it out so that I can maintain that quality of life. Or I could even say like, I'm good. My family's good. I'm just going to go like hell so that I can, build my nest. Right. It's just a difference in how you think about it. Yeah. So, but here's a question. How does a scarcity mindset, regardless of how it got there or why you have a scarcity mindset, how does it affect your business? How does it affect your relationships? How does it affect your life? Like what impact does it have?
Yeah, I can jump on this one, Pam. Christine, I can only speak for my own experiences. And I mean, I can obviously look in and, I have the privilege and honor to work with so many of you in the industry. And there are probably more people than not that really do try to come from a growth mindset, to have abundance and to share, whether that's strategies, whether that's, hey, this worked for me, or hey, be careful. I tried this, it didn't work, or I invested in this. This is my experience. I think we do try to be very abundant, but where it gets tricky is it sometimes lurks in the darker corners. And we don't always catch ourselves until it's a little messy, right? And myself included. I mean, if you think about the things that kind of make you feel really tense, the things that, if you notice yourself feeling a little hot, and that may or may not be menopause. That's a whole other conversation. But if you feel yourself feeling tense, like to me, that's a notice. That's something to pay attention to and say, oh, okay, this might be something where I'm wrestling with some scarcity mindset around this person, around the interaction I'm having with this person. And so I have to stop. I mean, I can't even tell you how you almost don't realize it until it's already happening. Right. Yeah. And so I think having conversations like this, where you can maybe be a bit preemptive and have strategies in place. I don't know. You two are the yogis of all yogis. I mean, maybe you can give us some preventative measures here. I typically notice once I'm in the thick of it. What about you, Pam?
Well, before I turn over to Pam, I just want to say something about that, Stacey, which is because as you were saying that, I was thinking, well, yes, those are great awareness mechanisms, right? Tools. So many people don't even have those, even that understanding to know, like to pay attention so that you can become aware. And I mean, and the wisdom, right? Like the wisdom comes with maturity. And I remember when I first started yoga, that was the very first lesson I had, which was that building of awareness and those tools to understand how to become aware so that you can take pause or you can respond versus react. Pam, I can see you're like spinning. Speak.
I am. So many things are going through my head, and I think that it's human to the majority of time not know we've made a choice that necessarily isn't supportive of us until we're a bit in it. It's like we have to step in the whatever you want to call it, and be like, oh, this again, right? So, and that's just life. That's how we learn. And I think how we relate to those experiences, though, are key. So, with scarcity, for example, you know, I was thinking about how it's so tempting when business is low and somebody reaches out to you and they're like, hey, I'm really interested in buying or selling a house. And you're like, oh, this doesn't feel quite right. This is going to be challenging, but I need this, right? I'm going to take this on. And then you get into it and it's just like a relationship outside of real estate. It's like you fall in love initially. You think you can overcome it. You think you can change this person. Oh my God. And then you're in it. And then you're like, oh, this is what I thought it was going to be. And, you know, it sucks up your time, your energy, your money when you could have gotten a referral fee from it and given it to somebody else. So how do you kind of step around the landmines, right? Certainly having some kind of practice that fosters awareness, whether it's yoga, spirituality. You know, some people just like reading books that help them think about those types of things, podcasts. My big thing with this and our industry is you really need to have a life outside of it. Yeah. If you are depending on your self-worth, on your production or your team's production or your whatever, you are set up to ride the wave up and down and it will never stop. So
talk about that for you. Talk about that for you. How do you do that for you? Because Stacey and I are not selling real estate. So as much as we can understand, we've never been in it, right? So talk about how you are able to do that.
Yeah. Well, since I got into the industry, just because of my background and my very heightened desire to stay in balance, I've had many times in my life when I was out of balance physically, emotionally, mentally, and it's really uncomfortable. And I have spent a lot of time and energy and money on myself. And so when I entered real estate, it was really clear to me that it was not an environment that encouraged balance or encouraged an identity necessarily outside of the business. And I almost felt like what was fed to me was that you have to make this everything if you want to be successful. And that just was not going to be my path. So I actually incorporated coping mechanisms within my business as I built my brand. So I'm branded Yoga Bug Real Estate. So when I actually have to go to a yoga class sometimes to get business. So that's how important this is to me. And so I do that. I incorporate hiking into physical activity is essential for my well-being on all levels. So I commit myself to that every single day. And I do a big hike every week and I do the Portland real estate stats on top of a mountain. So I have like literally woven wellness and balance into my business so that interestingly, when I have a month that's slow, I can just easily focus and shift into doing these other activities that actually not only support me, but they support my business as well.
That's one of my favorite things that I've watched you do, Pam, is I've watched you find a way to just masterfully web the things that matter most to you into your business. And honestly, I think that's a true blueprint for success, not just success financially, because it's sort of like that, coming back to that magnet thing. You made a decision about things that mattered most to you, and you wove that into your practice. And as a result, I have watched your business grow. I have watched you become a magnet where people are just so drawn to you, to your energy, your wisdom. So I think that it's definitely a blueprint. And Christine, I want to say something maybe a little bit controversial here. I hope you don't mind. You made a mention, and it was a little, it's a trigger moment because it's actually scarcity. And I'm going to tell you what it is. You made a statement and you said, oh, well, we're not in it like you are, Pam. So I'm going to challenge you because I hear this a lot in the industry.
She's going after the host. She's going after the host.
No, I'm going after the host, but not the host. I love you. You know, these are literally two of my favorite humans.
I know.
It hides in the dark corners. I'm telling you.
It does. You're right.
I hear this often where somebody may be very excited to receive a piece of advice from somebody, but if they receive a piece of advice from somebody and they're going through something, they're struggling, it's so quick to say, well, you're not an agent, so you won't understand. You're not an agent, so you can't possibly give me advice. Well, I'm going to just challenge that because I have found in my own business, now, obviously I'm in our industry, but not as an agent. I have been supporting agents for 20 plus years. And I have also grown the most in my own business from people who are not in my business. By looking outside of what I do in the day-to-day, it's giving me outside perspective. It's giving me an edge so that I can differentiate, so I can be a little bit better than I was before. So if any part of you, the next time that somebody is thinking about giving you a piece of advice and you think, well, no, you don't do what I do. You can't possibly. Ask yourself, is that an abundance mindset or is that scarcity? I challenge.
That is awesome. I love that.
I love you.
Yeah, that's really, yeah. No, I really love that you put that out there because that is so true. So even, you're right, it hides in the dark corners, right? So even when you think, and I believe that I have an abundance mentality.
You do.
And I will also say that it doesn't come naturally always. Certainly, during the tougher times, I have to work on it. I have to work at it. And so one of my questions to you guys was, as we were just talking, is, what's the antidote for scarcity? Like, what's the antidote for it? I mean, I know what I think it is.
I would love to hear you tell us what you think it is, because you know what? You probably have some strong wisdom talking to all these amazing people constantly that maybe you can enlighten us.
I think it's gratitude.
Yeah.
I think it's gratitude. I think it's so cliche. And I think that it's, it's cheeky. But I think it's the truth. I think when you ask yourself, am I coming from a place of scarcity or abundance? And the answer is scarcity. Then I think it's an opportunity to look around at your circumstances and also look at what's happening within and find gratitude for whatever it is that's causing you to have that, right? Like, you don't feel like you're smart enough, or you don't feel like you're strong enough, or you don't feel like you're tall enough, or that you're skinny enough, or there's a million things, right? And so you can always find gratitude for, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like, oh God, I'm so grateful that I'm here on this earth. It's like, no, I'm really grateful that I was able to get up this morning. Sometimes it's as simple as that.
Sometimes it's the littlest thing. So it's so interesting that we're talking about this. So I'll be honest, until I got your text yesterday, I forgot that today was today. Life has been really busy this year. Things got incredibly busy, made a pivot in the role that I'm in. And so life has gotten busy. One of the things that I've been doing to help ground myself is I can be a strong workaholic. And I think most people in our industry are. We have a new house that's being built across the street. I live in an old neighborhood, and this brand new house is going up right across the street, which is so strange, right? It's just an old vintage neighborhood, and there's this brand new house right here. And it's so big, it blocks the sunset. And that upsets me. I love the sunset so much. So I've decided that this was the universe telling me I had to build a house so big that you couldn't see the one thing that makes you happy so that you'd get off of your butt, out of your office and walk outside. You have to walk down the street. You have to walk around the block. You can't even get to the sunset until you move. It literally took building something so big that I couldn't just look at what I wanted to see. And so the practice that I have now is as soon as it starts to get, I notice it's getting darker, stop what I'm doing. I go outside for a walk to find my sunset. And as I walk, I look and I talk out loud to myself. Now, people might think I'm crazy lady, but whatever, it's fine. I walk and I talk to myself and I say all the things that I notice around me. And I say thank you for them. Because if I try to think about all the things I'm grateful for, it almost feels like a broken record sometimes because thank you for my breath. Thank you for the roof over my head. Thank you for my family. And I'm very grateful for all those things, but I also feel like it can become like this broken record on repeat Groundhog's Day moment. And so if I walk and I go in different directions, and if I look up more one time or look this direction more the other time or look down more the other time, I see something different. And that gives me something else to notice and have gratitude for. And so that's my new grounding strategy. So if you are listening and that interests you, don't wait for a big house to be built in front of your eyes and force you out of your house. Just do it.
Yeah. No, that's really, really important. It reminds me of something totally dorky. I have a bird feeder outside my kitchen window, and when I see the birds there, I'm like a child. I'm like, oh my God, look at the bluebird, look at the red bird. And my family's like, oh my God. My kid is like, oh my God, Mom, you're so weird. And hey, I'll be weird. I'm good with being weird if that's called weird.
If it makes you happy. I mean, Sheryl Crow said it best. It can't be that bad.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh my God. Okay. So let's talk about agents who are stuck right now, because I think that there's a lot of them that are stuck. And it hurts my heart when I see people who are stuck and I want to get them unstuck. How do we, or what strategies do you think an agent could use who's feeling stuck, who's feeling the scarcity, and wants to shift that mindset? Like, what advice would you guys give?
I'll go first on that one. I mean, it's kind of endless, but I would encourage that person to talk with somebody that, if they have somebody in their life that they feel could be as neutral as possible with them. Because often we seek advice from people that we believe that we know they're going to say what we want to hear. And in circumstances like this, unfortunately, fortunately, I should say, that most likely doesn't serve us. And there are probably a lot fewer people in our lives that are willing to be honest with us. And so I think it's this balance. So if you have a person in your life that you know is loving, you know has been by your side, regardless of their role, and is an honest listener, then sometimes just saying it out loud to somebody helps to invite clarity for us. The answers are all inside. So this person on the outside, the most they can do is ask a good question so that we can figure this out for ourselves. Them offering us guidance, advice, that's nice, it's lovely, but the truth is, unless we own it, there's not going to be any kind of a shift. One thing I do for myself when I get frightened is I let myself go to the absolute worst scenario. For me, it's like, all right, so if I were homeless, and I've done this many times in my life. So I lost the house, I lost my husband, I lost all these things that are so important to me, and I'm by myself, and I'm here. I just let myself go there. It's like I always imagine myself like somebody's fishing and I'm the fish. And then there's the bait. And the bait is this thing like, I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to be okay. And I take the bait and like a fish, I run away from the boat, right? And then I get caught back. And that's the moment where I'm like, oh, I would survive this. I would survive it. And I remind myself that it's for me. It's not something that's happening to me. I actually created this somehow. I chose this profession. I chose this livelihood. I chose this house. It's tough to own up to it, but God, there's freedom in it, man.
Right.
Really
And, it's interesting. If I sit back and I look, and I do this every day, is look at who is doing really, really well during this uptick, during this downtick. I look to see who's thriving right now, who's struggling right now. And I do see some common things and some common themes. I notice the folks that are struggling. I don't like to focus on the negative, but I'm going to just focus just to give a little bit of call out. The people that are struggling do share some commonalities, and that is they are caught in complaining. They are caught in a victim mentality. They're surrounding themselves with people that echo those same feelings. And they spend a lot of time in these negative online groups where they can have an echo chamber of people who can tell them how horrible things are. Now let's flip the script really quick. The people that I see thriving, they stay out of that drama. They stay out of the drama. Instead, they are crafting their reality. Am I saying that things are perfect for them? No. In fact, I know some people that we know, probably mutually, that are seen as highly successful people. And they're struggling right now. They're struggling right now. But what they're doing is they're not allowing the struggle to become this magnet for more people echoing the struggle for them. Instead, it's, you know what? It is hard. It is hard. There are some things out of my control. I can't control the market. I can't control the fact that we've had lawsuits. I can't control it. And yes, it's impacting me. But what I can do is I can continue to work on the areas that I need strengthening. And I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that obsessively until I can refine and get stronger, get better. And I know that as I'm working, that the market will continue to change because guess what? It always has and it always will.
Yeah.
So pour into your skills, pour into your capabilities, pour into your mindset. I know it sounds woo-woo and it is what it is because I guess we are kind of a little bit kind of woo. But that being said, the gratitude practice is real. And aren't you grateful that we have the capability to learn? Aren't you grateful that we have the capability to find new things? And we live in this time when there's so much cool, amazing tech that is making our life actually vibrate at a faster pace. And I know that sounds scary to some, but it can optimize and make you a stronger business owner. So it excites me and it frightens me, but it's life. Like you said, Pam, it's life.
It is. Yeah. And you said something, I don't know. Do you guys listen to Glennon Doyle or read any of her books? Right. Like, she says, actually I have a poster of it somewhere in here. We can do hard things. We can do hard things. Like that's one of her mottos. And I always think of it because whenever there is a struggle, like you're saying, Stacey, you have the choice. You always, always, always have a choice. You can choose to have that victim mentality and go down that hole, or you can choose to rise above it. And part of doing that is believing that you can do hard things and surrounding yourself with people who also have that mentality. That's so, so important. And I think that if you're a person who's struggling right now and you need a mind shift, part of the reason it's scary to think of shifting the way you think is because you're going to lose friends. You're going to lose people in your life,
Mhm.
who right now feel like they're supporting you, but they're really not.
It can
Right?
be the best thing that could ever happen to you.
Yes.
It could be the best thing.
Yes. And it's scary though, right?
Yeah.
It's scary because there's people don't like conflict, and it's scary to walk away from people in your life that aren't serving you. But you're right. Like if you can be brave enough to take that step towards people who can lift you up instead, then that's a huge way to get out of that scarcity mindset and into a place of abundance.
It's kind of like what Pam was saying. Like if you go to that, what is the extreme example? And Pam, by the way, I do the same thing. I love that we have another yet common way is I will take it to the furthest extreme and think, well, what if? And then I'll tell you what, I don't know that I've gotten to a what if scenario where I couldn't still be like, you know what? I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
Even that final scenario, I have thought about like what would happen if it meant that I'm expired, I'm not here.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that one. And I'm like, you know what? I have been so lucky. I have amazing people that I get to meet. I have met so many amazing people. I choose to create experiences out of everything that I do. I am grateful every day, even on the horrible days. And I'll tell you what, I'll be honest, this has been a week, ladies. This has been a week. And I am still telling myself through some of the struggle that you're lucky to get to have a struggle. Right? Because what if, if you think about the thing that is happening, you feel like it's happening to you, not for you, like, which is one of the things that you were mentioning, Christine. Like, what if you weren't in the situation you are right now and that thing didn't happen? Well, what other thing might have happened? Because guess what? It's going to happen. Like things are going to always happen. That's just a constant. Change is inevitable. So,
and it doesn't mean that you have to be Pollyanna. I think, if anybody is listening to this and hearing what you just said, Stacey, they might, somebody who's cynical might say, oh, well, she just has it all, right? Like
I don't have it all, but I am a Pollyanna and I'm okay with it because
you are Pollyanana.
I am. And you know what?
I'm not. I'm not.
Not either.
I'm okay with it. Let me tell you, ladies, over the years, I have had people tell me that my mindset is going to cause me to fail, that I am going to live in a land of delusion because of the way that I think. I will never be successful if I continue to think that way. Well, guess what? They were wrong. My mind worked just fine for me. And it works for me. If having cynicism works for you, well, great. But just ask yourself, right? Ask yourself. And I have to ask myself when I'm Pollyanning, whatever, at the end of the day, if something helps you get better, stronger, and helps your heart to overcome, who are we to tell you that it's not okay? Who are we to tell you?
Yeah. And I think you just have to ask yourself, is this serving me? And is it me, allowing me to be the best that I can be? And by the way, like I know both of you and I've known you for a long time. And I personally know the struggles that you've had over the course of your lifetime, at least some of them. So you're not, you're not just living this splendid life with no struggle. I mean, you've had plenty of struggle and you're still making these choices.
I just choose not to focus on it. Yeah. If I wanted to, I could write you all a book on dysfunction and horrible things that can happen to humans. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe all this. But you know what? Like, what if I talk about that?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to invite more of that back into my world.
Exactly.
I don't want to talk about it.
And there's the law of attraction, right?
Yeah.
There's the law of attraction.
I mean, I think that, that nails it so much, Stacey. We have this mechanism in us called attention, whatever you want to call it, right? But for me, attention and attitude create my reality. And so wherever I put my attention, it will literally be a magnifying glass. It just expands. So that comes back to, who do we hang out with?
Yes.
I don't know, how much do we scroll on social media?
Yes.
I'm scrolling the No Like Trust podcast quite a bit. And I am scrolling my friend's amazing video series that she does on YouTube with all her fabulous spots in Portland. I am scrolling.
You're so funny.
Just say.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, ladies, I love this. We could talk for hours. And I wish we could have a live radio show-ish where people could call in, right? That would be super fun. Anyway, not today, for another time. Could each of you tell me one thing that you want our community to walk away with today?
Go ahead, Pam. You go first. Dun, dun, dun.
You are not alone. This is a community, collective, human experience.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. It's simply an experience.
Yeah.
I love that. I would say this: abundance is already a part of you because you are abundant. And I am grateful for the time I get to even have this conversation. And if you happen to be listening to this, I'd love to connect.
Love it. And we're going to put your social media handles in the show notes here. But while we're at it, why don't you each call them out in case people are driving or something?
Sure. Mine's Yoga Bug Real Estate. Easy to find. There's not another one. So
yeah. And I'm Stacey Soleil. So I always say like Cirque du Soleil, the circus, except for not my monkey, not my circus, but yeah, it's Stacey Soleil. I'm everywhere online, and you can scroll and get lost in scrolling to find me.
Yeah. There you go. And I would just say, I think gratitude is the antidote to scarcity. And I think if you can just take 30 seconds in the moment where you're at and just, look around you and say, I'm looking at a box of Kleenex right there going, I'm always glad it's there because I need it more often than I realize. It's the simplest things.
Yeah. And it's better than a rag that just sits in your pocket and it gets all crusty and gross.
If you're one of those people that walks around with a handkerchief, gross. That's
You're
just
old school. Yeah. Join us for more conversations with ADD. Exactly.
Damn.
And we end on that.
Oh, and there you have it.
That doesn't blow. That doesn't blow.
Oh my God. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you, ladies. And if you're listening to us today, thank you for joining us. If you liked what you heard, share it with your friends. If you're watching us on YouTube, click that subscribe button so you get notified next time we drop a new episode. And till next time, have a wonderful day. Ciao, everyone.